uh, uh, uh. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bad Hasbara, the world's most moral podcast. My name is Matt Lieb. I am your most moral co-host. Thank you for, watching us once again. We appreciate how many people have been reaching out to us and saying that this show makes them feel less crazy, which is great. Because initially this podcast was started just because I just wanted to yell at Zionists, but it turns out a lot of people like that. People are into it. People have been trying to yell and felt unsafe, and now they're doing it, and I love you all for it. So I want to thank you all. I want to tell the listeners out there who are listening to this, congratulations, because you're hearing this before anyone else. That's right. If you are someone who watches this show on YouTube, you're getting it late, dog. Like I have to upload it. I got a slow internet speed. It's the bandwidth's not enough. It takes a while. So everyone who's listening on their, podcast app, they're hearing it before everybody else. So what are you doing? Listen to it instead and then watch it later. And if you want to listen to it before literally everyone else, patreon.com/badhasbar. Do it. Please join. Also, once again, I want to give a shout out to our producer, Adam Levin, who's been doing a great job. He's the best. And finally, I want to urge people, while you still can, join the subreddit r/badhasbara. It's on its last leg. There's a concerted effort to get it banned from Reddit. There's whole subreddits that are dedicated to its destruction. It's fucked up. That's the way it is. So join it while you can. It's a lot of fun. The mods there are doing a great job banning all the Nazis and banning all the Zionists. And sometimes those things are one and the same. So go post videos, have a good time. Don't be a dickhead, and subscribe. Okay. I'm going to introduce our most moral co-host. He is back. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone else, it's my main man, Daniel Mate. What's up?
Howdy, neighbor. I'm fresh out of propaganda. Can I Hasbara some?
Yes, you can Hasbara. We have lots of it today. I mean, this has been...
I'm excited.
I feel like this has been a crazy week in terms of, lies, like official lies from the Israeli government. And so it's like I have too many things, too many clips, too much news.
How long has it been since I was in that room? What, like 9 days ago?
It's very recent. Very recent.
It's like last Wednesday, I think.
Last Wednesday.
We recorded.
And yeah, it is weird how time goes like super slow when the world is falling apart and you're reading the news about Israel. It's just time certainly is standing still here. But
you managed to pack in one more episode in the interim.
Yeah.
And I just have to say, Matt, maybe I shouldn't do this on air because it's kind of vulnerable. Don't you love it when people say I'm going to get kind of vulnerable here right now? It's
I love
it. Like you're not allowed to.
Yeah, right.
You're not allowed to be mad at me because I got all vulnerable. Thank you, Brene Brown.
You are invulnerable to being when you're vulnerable. That's how it works.
It's the invulnerability cloak of vulnerability.
That's
but
right.
I am, but quite seriously, Matt, because I am going to get kind of vulnerable here.
Please.
I'm glad you did another episode. I'm glad you're not, relying on me. I'm glad you're branching out. And quite frankly, I don't mind if you cheat on me with other co-hosts.
Sure.
But you have to cheat on me with your wife.
I know. It's hard. I told my wife this, this when I was, had her on as my most moral co-host. I told her, you're technically not my most moral co-host because I only have one of those.
She's your most marital co-host.
She's my most marital co-host and my most moral wife. And then after I said it, I realized I implied I had many other wives who were
less moral.
And she ripped me for that. So I feel like I got my just desserts for cheating on you with my wife. Sorry. I can't say my wife without doing a Borat voice, and it's sad that that's been poison pilled by Zionism.
Right, and now, but now, as you and I were discussing off air, Borat himself has been galaxy brained by that son of Hamas guy who debated Abby Martin on, or so-called debated Abby Martin, appeared opposite Abby Martin and took, was a pincushion for her laser darts.
It was amazing. I've never seen him like I've seen him debate people or go on like news programs, and I've always been like, this is the weirdest fucking guy. Like, why do they put him on TV? If not to, bolster the anti-Zionist cause. But he like went full Borat. He was the most Borat I've ever seen. In fact, there was a deep fake in which someone made him as Borat talking to Abby Martin.
Yeah,
it's pretty great.
It's like, yeah, his theme song is "Throw the Palestinian Down the Well."
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Oh, it was so great.
So my people can never be free.
Yes, that's right. Well, I'm very glad you're back, and apologies to you for me having a wife. I would suggest that at some point you get a wife, so that you could say my wife, and then I could do Borat voice my wife. It would make things easier for me.
That reminds me of a great Ani DeFranco lyric. She's saying to a guy who's feeling, upset that she's rejected him. She says, maybe you should follow my example and find yourself a really nice girl.
Nice. That's a burn, dog. That's a fucking burn.
Circa 1995, man.
Ani DeFranco. She was like my favorite post 9/11 music person. And that's when I started getting into her, because she was a big fuck Bush person, and I was in college, and I was like, hell yeah.
She played at that big Nader rally at Madison Square Garden, and I'm gonna go see her on Broadway soon. She's in Hadestown right now.
Oh shit,
Persephone. Yeah,
nice, good for her. Glad she's doing all right. But it's not just us today. No, we have a very special guest, ladies and gentlemen, in the most moral third seat. The co-host of the Majority Report. Everybody, welcome Emma Vigeland. Hey, what's up?
I'm the most moral Gentile. How about that?
That's right. We got us a Gentile. Now we're going to ask you questions about what you think about lending us some of your Christian blood so we can have a feast.
Oh, well, I didn't know that was on the table, but
it's always on the table.
I forgot about the whole blood-sucking situation.
Yeah, we're into it. We
well,
like it.
I mean, look, I would not identify as a part of like the evangelical base that wants to send most Jews back to Israel, and then a fraction can sit at the right hand of God. Because I'm, I didn't grow up religious in that way, but I kind of have to get looped into them on appearance alone, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think that if you, let's say, end up being around during the end times, and you see the choice being put forth to Jews, either convert or burn in eternal hellfire, I'd like to think that you would, be like, no, save Matt, like you'd be, I mean, maybe save Matt and Daniel.
That one's good.
Yeah. Well, Sam has already kind of asked for.
That's right. Sam's got dibs.
He gets dibs. Also because he has eczema and the.
I have eczema.
Well, yeah. I mean, again though, I'm closer to him, and he also signs my checks, so I've just got to say this at least for now. But if you have something to offer, I mean, I can save your eczema from the heat of the hellfire as well.
Dude, you know what? It's not even the fire I'm worried about. It's the humidity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fire is dry heat. Well, I guess in hell they would probably have both, just for.
They'd probably figure out a way.
Oh no, they would throw water on those hot stones. They'd definitely steam room it up.
I'm schwitzing over here.
Exactly. Excellent. Schwitz for eternity, Jew. We like it when you schwitz.
We like when you schwitz.
I mean, Emma, it's great that you're here, actually. It's great to have a Gentile. I was watching a video by some rabbinical-looking Jewish scholar who was, in the title of the YouTube video, it's I think it's like, to all the Jews joining campus protests, parentheses, with respect. And he comes with a lot of respect. He condescends to them with a lot of respect.
I love
very
that.
Politely, and basically says, look, I understand why you're doing it. I get it. You want Gentile approval. You want the Goyim to love you, and that's understandable. Now, let me give you a history of Jews who did that, and kind of what happened to them, and how the Gentiles eventually rejected them.
Pick-me's. Pick-me's.
Yes, we are
exactly.
all
pick-me Jews,
So we're
right.
basically, this is a Pick Us podcast, and we're really glad to have you here, and we hope that you will
Pick us.
fit to pick us.
Please pick us.
Pick you guys to sit on the right-hand side of God, and once the
Yeah,
destruction
I'll hang out
inevitably
with
comes-
Jesus or whatever. I don't know, man. He seems
Jump
pretty
down,
cool.
turn around, pick a Jewish podcast.
Well, I mean, apparently, Israel is not just the most moral army in the world. It's also the only democracy in the Middle East, we're told.
right.
So,
That's
in
right.
upholding democratic values, obviously, you guys get some lottery tickets, and you get to vote on this, and maybe you can. I'll disperse it, but obviously,
Yes.
Arab Jews don't get to participate. I mean, are they even Jews? That's
I
the
mean,
whole
are they even Arabs? Who knows? That's the thing about it.
'Cause-
We
The
don't
point-
get lottery tickets. We just bet on dreidel games.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
right. Yeah,
Gotcha.
We do
All right,
dreidel
well,
betting.
I'm gonna have to take some spin classes, but I mean of the dreidel kind.
What if getting a free pass into heaven during the apocalypse is it's like finding the afikomen during Passover, where it's just like every Jew in the world is just searching for that piece of matzah, just like yes, it's like the golden ticket,
The golden ticket. And we're
Yeah.
like, now I can't
Golden
get
matzah.
the golden
golden
matzah.
matzah.
Yes,
After what you said, Emma, I can't get out of my head this notion of Israel. You go to a spin class in Israel, and it's just a bunch of Jews furiously twirling dreidels.
Well, they are doing.
Well,
spin
actually,
classes.
or you twirl dreidels while you're putting spin, like Hasbara
Yes,
spin
exactly.
on war crimes.
yes.
There's so much there that we could get to.
There's a
Let me
lot.
tell-
It's deep.
I have had so many, and I just figured you guys would appreciate the story. I've had so many deranged conversations with Zionists in my life, some who are not even Jewish, just like Zionist family
yeah.
members, and difficult friendships kind of falling apart, that kind of
Right.
thing. But the most amusing story, I feel like I can say this, I won't say her name, is that I had to break up with my therapist last week.
Oh my God! No.
We had a very difficult few months since October 7th, where, she is an older Jewish woman.
Sure.
And of course, like, we had a great relationship, and I kind of just plowed through because at the beginning I knew if I ended this, even though she was such a big Zionist, like, she would think I was anti-Semitic 100%, right? And I also needed her because I was depressed about the genocide.
The whole
unfolding.
genocide thing going on. Yeah.
And my friends, some friends of mine, like, kind of cutting me off because of my commentary on it and all that stuff that I need to talk about in therapy. But, like, she wasn't probably the best person to be talking to.
Sure.
Our final conversation ended like this. I told her, look, it's one of the worst crimes that's being committed in the history of humanity that we'll ever live through, this genocide right now. And she said, well, I want you to know that I would give my life for Israel. And I said, I don't think this is going to work out.
I want you to know, I'm here to hold space for you, whatever you need to go through, whatever you need to say. I can absolutely hold space. This is a safe space for you, unlike the Hamas tunnels, where our people, you may not know this, are being held in the worst atrocity since the Holocaust. Please go on. What were you saying?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even, like, I really appreciated her. She's like, and that's the thing is like, when you get up close and personal with people, you're like, how can you think this way? Like, you're a
Right.
rational, normal person that exists in society, and you have these other things that you would identify in terms of, like, liberal values. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that
No, but the
cognitive
choir needs preaching, because this is the number one, like, email that we get here on this show is
Right.
people going like, thank you for doing this podcast, and then like a 10-page story about like the best friend they've ever had who was used to be normal now being like completely batshit.
And do
Just
you know how
saying the most
normal?
genocidal things.
Do you know how common this therapist story is? I've heard it
Yeah.
from like 5
Yes.
different people.
Really?
That for months they've basically needed to role reverse and emotionally caretake their therapist.
Well,
Which, like, great, you're going to heal your trauma where you had to emotionally caretake your parents, with a therapist who's going to demand you do that with them, so they don't have to confront the cognitive dissonance of what they're holding tribally and politically right now. It's insane.
It's so funny to be with your therapist who says something like, I just letting you know I'd gladly give my life for Israel, and just immediately going, So let's interrogate that for a second.
Yeah, right. Why
Say
is
more about that. In fact,
Say
actually,
more.
sorry, don't say more about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Say no more about that.
Yes. Just like the amount of handholding that I think all of us here, and then a good portion of our listeners have had to do with people in their lives to not for any like greater political purpose. I mean, some people are trying to like convert their families into, anti-Zionism, or at least being critical of Israel.
Right.
But most people are just trying to hold together a friendship, and they're just like they're deeply distressed by people in their lives like holding these views. And I think a lot of that also kind of contributes to not wanting to engage with it at all on every level. Like whether it's just some person, or some like rich Hollywood celebrity who might like sympathize, but is like, I don't know, a lot of people are yelling at me about, and whenever I try to bring it up, someone yells at me. So I'm gonna just,
Well, I'm
take some
curious
space.
about your guys' take on this, because for me, well, one, I've observed that liberal Zionists who were screaming at me and saying I'm contributing to a culture of anti-Semitism a few months ago have just basically stopped talking about it. And so they've gone really insular. And I think it's like this notion where, like, I could never understand, right, what this person is going through. And I resent that a little.
You could, but go ahead.
I resent it slightly because it's like we have had a relationship up until this point where you have had no problem with me thinking like I could understand what Black people are going through, what Hispanic people are going through. I mean, I don't know, what the victims of the Armenian genocide or the people who were genocided in Cambodia have went through, right? Like you had no problem thinking that. But now, because of, frankly, a notion of Jewish exceptionalism, right?
Yes.
Like you think that I can't get it. Like your experience is too unique for me to understand. And you go ahead.
For the sake of argument, I mean, the analogy would really be, can you understand what a hardcore Trumper is going through? And I think that's a valid, because it's not about what Jews are going through, because there is no monolithic, not that any of those groups are monolithic, right? But can you understand what someone who is captured by an ideology that keeps them from grasping key aspects of reality and keeps them cheering for things that you think are, deplorable. So like, can I understand what a neoliberal is going through? Can I understand what, the people who strike me as ridiculous are going through? And that actually is kind of a valid question. And if I can't, then me engaging with them probably isn't going to lead to much,
Yeah,
because it's hard to understand how someone can, like Matt said, how can you be in this reality, or maybe you said it, Emma, how can you be in this reality and still holding on to this? Well, there's a reason. People have an internal world about it, and something about it, it's not worth to them to question and give up on what they've been holding on to. Not yet.
Yeah, and I think this goes for a lot of liberal Zionists, especially because of, I mean, the whole thing with the liberal Zionists is the amount of projecting empathy that they have done. And I don't even think it's like insincere. I think they do, have the capacity to feel. I think the problem is that like that it's so tied into their identity, to be a liberal, and it's so tied into their, identity to be pro-Israel that rather than kind of like engaging with it in a honest way with other people,
The contradiction.
the contradiction is hard to like deal with that with people who you're like, I remember thinking people will never understand. Like that was something I would actually, it kept me from ever discussing the topic with anyone who wasn't Jewish, because I was more like afraid of the fact that they might, like they wouldn't be sensitive enough to discuss this issue in a way that made me feel safe about it. And it just kind of like came to the point where it was just like, the amount of policing of other people that I had to do in order to like in order to uphold these, but like continue having this contradiction as
The
a part
amount
of my
of
worldview.
the sheer number of conversational checkpoints you needed to erect.
Yes, exactly. I had to erect a lot of checkpoints. And I'll tell
Yeah,
you,
so many checkpoints. It's
and
almost as if you're a second-class citizen in your own mind.
I'll just say, a lot of people in my life did not have the correct color license plate to drive through the freeway of my worldview. And,
That's exactly right.
And so, I felt like I needed to sort of enclose and surround them.
Damn, that's fucking profound, guys.
I mean, we're digging deep here, but
Yes, we are.
I wrote this down as you were talking. Can't bring themselves to reckon with the fact that they're a part of white supremacy. I think that that's a big part of it. Like, I mean, and I know that white supremacy, maybe that's not the right word for it. It's like colonialism or American empire or Western, like,
It's,
I
I think it's totally fine shorthand. I hate the parsing of it. The white supremacy, that's
Right.
fine.
Well, it's certainly true that Israeli society is white supremacist, but that includes being white supremacist against its own Arab Jewish population.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
It gets a little complicated.
It's
but
both
yeah.
Jewish supremacists and white supremacists, whatever.
Right.
I mean, you want to assign to it at this point, but like, I think so many marginalized and like historically discriminated against people, like in this country, at least within the political context of Democrat versus Republican, the polling bears it out. Obviously, Jewish Americans are one of the more liberal cohorts in this country,
Right.
And so it's a complete, I think, thumb in the eye of their self-conception of themselves as like being being a part of like fighting hatred, right? And because of what the Jewish people have gone through with the Holocaust and the horrors of the Spanish Inquisition and the pogroms and all of that, like that builds up a cachet where you can automatically understand what other groups are going through and you don't really need to examine it that much. And
Right.
so when you have to, when they're being confronted with that, it really is like a difficult kind of test of looking inward, and a lot of people aren't up to the task, and like I'm at a point where my dear friend and producer here, Matt Leck, is always just like, hey, you can point the finger right back at them right now because don't cower from it. They're supporting genocide, and so it's hard to do, but I've just lost respect for people, I guess, and is the end of it, who are unwilling to engage in that kind of self-analysis.
At my family's Seder a few weeks ago in Vancouver, there was quite an interesting moment. For the first time I can remember, pretty much everyone around the table, most people around the table, were pretty much in full agreement. Maybe not agreement on what the ultimate solution is or whatever, but everyone was just feeling horrified at what Israel's doing and disgusted. There was an Israeli family at the table that had recently relinquished their citizenship in protest.
Wow.
Who have been living in Canada for some time. And their son spoke eloquently about how we need to make every Seder, including Sam, especially Sam, about That's Gaza right. until Palestine is free. And sitting next to me was a 91-year-old member of the extended family, who is a very learned woman, deeply spiritual, originally from New York. And she was speaking in this very measured way about remembering when she was in Palestine in 1946-47, remembering the excitement and the tension, remembering her Arab friends in Jaffa and in Lod, which is also called Lid, I think, Lido. And knowing about the expulsions and having this sinking feeling in her stomach about what the country was founded on, but at the same time, the emotional euphoria of the creation of a Jewish state. And this is just the classic leftist, liberal, Zionist thing that I grew up going to summer camp around, just, and kind of venerating the whole kibbutz imagery without really reckoning with the racist, militaristic history of those things. Anyway, and she said, I saw Israeli society become more and more arrogant and aggressive. And I am afraid, she said, I'll just admit it. I'm still a Zionist. In my heart, I'm still a Zionist. I still believe in a Jewish state. And I'm afraid that Israel is destroying itself and that the future generations will not have an Israel to look up to like we did. And I was sitting there next to her, and part of me was thinking, you're being ridiculous, lady. Like, this is, how can you be equivocating right now? And the rest of me, most of me, was just kind of feeling a kind of fondness for her. Like, yeah, you know what? You're allowed to hold on to your Zionism at age 91.
Right.
You're allowed to not wake up from it and you're allowed to, as you move towards exiting this world, look back and say, man, this thing that I've really believed in might be fading, and I'm sad about that. You should be sad about it, and at the same time, I can sit there and be like, yeah, I hope it crumbles and gets replaced by something that's more humane and hospitable to everyone living there. But it was just this moment of
that's
someone
wonderful.
sitting here copping to Zionism and me somewhere in my heart being like, okay, I'm not gonna pull my bad Hasbara personality here. I'm gonna actually try to listen for where this person's heart's at.
I'm not gonna do a pun. I'm not gonna do.
I didn't.
Good for
really
you.
Didn't.
Wow.
Lots of self-restraint.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of I think Jews and non-Jews alike have a little bit of even the ones who have come to realize the realities of Zionism are able to I think hold on to, or they're able to allow for, I think, older people to kind of have that perspective, and you kind of account for decades of history and decades of programming and whatnot. And it's like, I see that happen far more often than I see it from the quote other side. Like you don't see people
Right.
holding, especially now, any space for someone who is on the other side of that, where they're holding on to their where they're critiquing Israel, and they've it's like you just you see someone like Bernie Sanders, and his the way he took forever to do literally anything other than kind of like toe the party line. And part of me is mad at him. The other part of me sees a lot of old Jews that I know who I'm like, you don't understand.
Right.
They come from there is an entire cathedral in the American Jewish old left mind that is built around celebrating the victory of the 6-Day War,
Jesus.
as being like when the Jews finally showed the world that they may be small, but they may be mighty, And
but
so
that's I'm sorry, Matt. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating to me, because I think, another, again, I'll cite Matt Leck, who made this point about how, this is something that you hear in Israeli society about how we're the Jews that wouldn't let the Holocaust happen to us. We're the strong
Right.
Jews. And
Yes,
how it's
yes.
like similar to what Kanye said, I guess, a few years ago about like, we wouldn't let slavery happen to us. And it's just, it's a real, I think, moment to reflect on like, what is our education about mass atrocities and like colonialism and what our Western states have done to the world.
Mhm.
Like, what is that teaching people? Because for the most part, if you were to ask an average American, I think, if they could name a second genocide after the Holocaust, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Mhm.
And I think it's in part because so much the way that the U.S. was on the side of the Allies in World War II, even though we turned away many Jews who were fleeing the Nazis, it allowed us to kind of create an American myth of exceptionalism and of morality that has carried us forward and has been such a part of like the United States political education for such a long period, where
Right.
we don't talk about the genocides that we were complicit in or that we orchestrated, whether it be like...
Well, we had to do those.
Yes, I mean, because those were necessary to the construction of the West, or to the
Exactly.
construction of our society.
Mhm.
And like, that is, I think, one of the most radicalizing things for these young people that we're seeing. And like, I'm 30, right? And I'm already calling them kids, but the kids at colleges, they are not cowed by the myth of American exceptionalism, because like, we grew up in an era of like the Iraq War and of the war on terror and what we did to the rest of the world, and there's an education about what we did to the global South and things like that, where I think it's both the generational divide is exactly what you're describing, but when you kind of zoom out and look at Zionist thought more broadly, even outside of Jewish communities, it's also about like who is more willing to challenge the myths of American exceptionalism and who aren't.
Right. And I think to
or Western exceptionalism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're to bring it back to a point you were making earlier about liberal Zionists. I think that is one of the things that bugs me the most. It's like where I get the most resentful of liberal Zionists is when I realized after October 7th, in the last few months, I feel like that critique that I once thought that they held, like the examination of Western imperialism and the examination of American empire and the examination of white privilege and all that stuff. Whereas I once thought it came from a place of, true introspection. I can say that word. The word. And I realized after the fact that there's just a good amount of them who are just like, well, that doesn't apply to me. White supremacy doesn't apply to me due to my Jewish heritage. Western imperialism doesn't apply to me due to the fact that, I read certain magazines or I, subscribe to certain content creators. Like, I just realized how many people, when they were saying we need to dismantle white supremacy, were leaving themselves out of the equation of that. And I think that is one of the reasons why I can't get past my disdain for liberal Zionists in my life, but more so than regular Zionists.
This speaks to a problem with modern liberalism in general, which is that it's about the performance of virtue. And it's about distinguishing yourself from the bad people. So
right.
we need to dismantle white supremacy actually translates as I'm on the good side.
Right.
And those people on the other side are on the bad side and we need to beat them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ally with the people who make me feel good about myself, including if that means some performative kente cloth, genuflecting.
Yeah.
But no genuine introspection, like you said. Now here's some dumb smart wordplay. Liberal Zionists eschew. How do you say that word?
Yeah, let's all forget words.
Right?
Eschew. Introspection.
Yeah.
But what they're actually doing is introjection. Which is a defense mechanism where you adopt the attitudes and views of others.
Yes.
And that's what Zionism is all about. You swallow the notion that Jews are fundamentally different than everybody else. You swallow the notion that Jews are also shameful for their victimhood. There's a kind, and that's where the self-loathing actually lies. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've talked about it. I got to go back and listen to that because I've obviously never experienced it. But when you say like feeling good about oneself, I think that's the thing that triggers me the most, which is like, I have news for some people. Politics are not really about your personal feelings. It's just about power. It's about what's right. It's about how do we want to construct a society in a way that is moral. And I am immensely resentful of the idea that we should be privileging the feelings of Zionists and like the idea that they're uncomfortable with the fact that they are now on the outside of one of the most like important movements for civil human rights that we'll live through. The idea that is equivalent and that I have to be kind of considering that versus the lives of people that are currently being starved to death and are in the midst of a genocide, as if that urgency for people living in the West, people living in the most, wealthy country in the history of the world, and the people who are saying this to me live in complete security. It's laughable, and it just shows that exact disconnect where they haven't been a lot of liberal Zionists haven't been able to confront the fact that their politics were so centered around their feelings as opposed to justice.
Yeah.
Well, as noted anti-Zionist and Palestinian solidarity leader Ben Shapiro has said, feelings aren't facts.
That's right.
I'm really glad he's been consistently applying that when it comes to his own feelings.
Yeah. We here at Bet Hasbara love Comrade Shapiro.
Pope of the Jews. He gets to determine who's good and who is a bad Jew. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, or if you've submitted an application to be considered.
I submit every week. They still don't get back to me, but I'm certain that he would put me in the good Jews category because I subscribe to the Daily Wire. I'm just great content, fair content. So glad that they are around. Before we go on, we do have to take a quick break. Speaking, we gotta do a quick bake. You know what I'm saying, bro? I'm sober. But yes. So stick around, everyone, and we'll be right back. And we're back. All right.
That feels like it went by in no time.
I know. Hey, listen, those were great commercials we just heard. And
subliminal advertising is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. I hope everyone buys that gun or whatever. I don't know what our programmatic ads sell. I assume it's guns. But so this is a podcast about Hasbara. And I wanted to bring up some of my favorite Hasbara. Today, in fact, there was a video that I can only describe as like the most perfect encapsulation of what Zionist PR is. And it was just in a way that I couldn't believe. It was like a diamond. It's all compressed into about 21 seconds. It's a video of Israel's UN ambassador. Who
this guy's absolutely shredding in this video.
Yeah.
He certainly is. His name is Gilad Erdan, and this is
the guy who wore the Jewish star, right?
I don't know, actually.
I think he's the guy
Probably.
who showed up early on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe during the ICJ thing, or maybe even back in the fall with like a yellow Jewish star.
Yeah.
This guy is a performance artist. What a flair for the dramatic.
He brought props. He brought props.
He certainly did, and it is it's beautiful to watch in real time because it just hits every single mark of Hasbara. And I'm going to play it for our audience if you haven't seen it.
This is
so. For those listening. He is standing at a podium holding the world's babiest paper shredder.
Don't talk about the babies. Are you talking about the babies? Because we know what happened to the babies, right?
Yes. He is putting what I believe it says the Charter of the United Nations. He printed out a mini version.
Right.
He went to Kinko's. He said, give me the smallest version of the charter. And he's putting...
They sell this shredder to jilted teenagers to shred like the 2 5x8 photographs you have of your sweetheart when they...
Oh my gosh, right, with Taylor Swift on in the background. It looks like it makes such a comically small, whirring noise as he does it too.
It's a fucking pencil sharpener.
Oh, it's exactly right. Like, I mean, it reminds me of like, when I was a kid, I'd have those easy bake ovens or whatever. It's like, this is not a real cooking here.
Yes, and he is just like, he's putting it in there so dramatically. Just listen to this.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, get in there.
Oh, he's
are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands.
And also, for those of you who are listening or watching, he is literally shredding the UN Charter with his own hands. He's in real time doing every accusation as a confession in a way that is just so simplistic that it's almost like artistic.
Right, like, but if he were to say you're shredding the UN Charter, it would maybe have a little more impact than him actually doing it and then saying everybody else is doing it. That's what's like the weirdness.
Also, he has to scream over that whiny motor of the thing. You are shredding. Yeah. This is what you're doing. This thing I'm doing, that's what you're doing. Except you're doing it. And you're doing it more metaphorically. But this is, in fact, what I'm doing here is a physical. You see this? This is supposed to represent what you're doing.
Just
you understand?
Watch.
Yes, that's what you're doing. Shredding the UN Charter.
Okay, where do I put this thing now?
Yes, we'll do.
He needs the stage manager to come and
Oh my gosh, yeah, right. Props guy. No, I'm such a sicko. Like, I just have decided that it's gonna be for the foreseeable future. I have no life. I'm just gonna watch the stuff and like make sure I produce it for the show and like provide time codes and make sure I don't miss anything. So the other part of that speech, which was insane, was him saying that this like application for Palestinian statehood during the Holocaust Remembrance Week was enabling a new Hitler to come to pass, and that the Palestinians are like the Nazis and all the rhetoric that we've heard before. And then he brought out the paper shredder, but I am still just incredibly in awe of the gall to say that the head of the Palestinian Authority, in this instance, by the way, the speech, is the new Hitler, when Netanyahu is currently the leader of their government overseeing a genocide and is just like thrashing about that he can't do it more effectively. Yeah,
well, maybe when he said the new Hitler, what he meant was that the old Hitler was Netanyahu. Maybe that's, if we're trying, maybe that's what he's saying. We don't know who he meant was the old Hitler. We have to give benefit of the doubt. I just love watching. First of all, it's just amazing that he went out and bought a baby shredder. And I like to imagine him writing to Amazon.com being like, when I bought the baby shredder, this is not what I had in mind, but I will find a use for it. I will find a use. It will be very theatrical. You'll love it. Like, the fact is that this guy took time, like he had his, I would like to think he personally went to the Kinko's and had them print a little tiny UN charter, I love watching it because you can't even satire the thing. He's doing a thing and he's like, you're doing this. How do you live with yourself?
For some reason, I'm having images of like Saul Goodman going into a dumpster to retrieve the tiny little, like the tiniest trash bag of that, and taping it together. Maybe maybe the Palestinians hired him because he's the kind of guy who'll go to bat for the little guy, and he like changes the charter so that it shows that the state of Palestine was in fact created in 1948. And then his brother Chuck. Now I'm getting into the weeds.
Yeah, now you're getting into all of it.
Are you ever going to do a get yourself a pod for the Breaking Bad world?
We've thought about it. It's it's a lot of show. I'm thinking like smaller shows, and then maybe.
Oh wait, you guys like Breaking Bad as men? That's so groundbreaking.
How dare you? All right. We like Sopranos and The Wire too, because sometimes things are basic because they're great.
And if David Foster Wallace was alive, he'd agree with us.
That's right. Goddamn right he is. He would.
That's exactly right.
No, fucking Better Call Saul has one of the best female characters ever on television.
True, I know. Right. I'm very resentful of, not very resentful, so over the top, but I like Breaking Bad. It's just like, Skyler sucks and was written horribly.
They made up for it with the Rhea Seehorn's character.
I'll watch Better Call Saul because obviously Bob Odenkirk is the GOAT. But
yeah, you got to watch that show. It's better than Breaking Bad. That's
what people say.
Come on.
Michael McKean's wonderful in it. Everyone's great in it.
All right, I'll add it to the list. I won't rewatch Mad Men for the 40th time.
In fact, the worst parts of that show are the Breaking Bad fan service things. Gus is told, what are we doing? This is not what this podcast is about.
Well, okay, just really quickly though, gotta say, kind of annoying to find out all of these creators are huge Zionists. Like Matthew Weiner signed, as did Amy Sherman Palladino, who created Gilmore Girls, which I loved growing up. But
wait, Weiner signed it too? The
Weiner,
the Google spread, the Google sheet, the list?
Google sheet that was criticizing Glazer's speech. Like that's like the level of Zionism where Amy Schumer didn't even have the gall to sign that letter, right? Like that is when you're actually out to lunch. And so,
do you know that I met Amy Schumer's brother? He approached me at a pro-Palestine event and thanked me for all the work I've been doing on Instagram.
I know they've had I read online that they're like, he's pretty anti-Zionist, right?
She's got a cool brother. We got to get him on the pod, bro.
We do. I mean, he's a very accomplished jazz. He's a reed player of some kind. I forget what he plays. Maybe bass clarinet.
Sick.
And yeah, he told me that he'd sent a few of my videos to his sister.
Oh, fuck. You're on a hit list, bro. You finna die.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean...
and she sent it to her cousin, Chuck.
Yeah. Right. I used to defend her because, like, I know it sounds dumb, but I always just thought that like her, the targeting of her was misogynistic in ways, just the fixation on her. But I've never been more wrong in my life. Like I should have abandoned ship at that point.
Yeah, you never know until Israel tries to do genocide. You really never know where people stand in terms of morality.
Well, it's
The
like
idea-
that.
Yeah,
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you, right?
That's right.
Just
Right.
because you're misogynist doesn't mean the woman you're targeting is not worth targeting.
Right,
it
exactly.
could be both. It could be both. And I just find it I was thinking about, or talking to my producer Bradley about the Dana Bash deranged monologue. She's
Yeah.
so blonde, and so is Amy Schumer, and I just like
This is
I
what
can't-
I've been saying.
They look more white than even me, or
This
like
is
whatever.
exactly what I've been saying for months now. One of my biggest resentments is that all of the people in Hollywood who are the face of "I'm scared to go outside" do
Yes.
not look visibly Jewish. Like no one is
Yes.
going to kill Amy Schumer because she's Jewish. If they do,
Because she's Jewish.
it's because she's a Jewess. If they do, it's going to be because she's a fucking racist asshole. But it's
Right.
like, and I wish no harm upon anyone. But I'm just saying she is not someone who has to be worried specifically because she's Jewish. It's just like, it's her, Eliza Schlesinger, Dana Bash, fucking just like name a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan Jew in Hollywood, and they're going to have at least one post that says #Will you hide me, and it makes me fucking.
I haven't
insane.
even seen that. Is that the I don't even know what the
You don't remember
yellow ribbon-
#Will you hide me?
Would you
signifies-
hide me?
Yeah,
like from the Nazis.
like Anne Frank. It was an attempt. It was an early attempt. They had to assemble the Hasbara writers' room real quick, and they said, "Okay, what are we going to do in order to make this not about us doing apartheid and occupation, and make it about every Jew in the world being targeted like the Nazis?" And they tried this hashtag. Everyone.
I'd hide you, but I just have to warn you, I'd kind of be like that French dairy farmer at the beginning of Inglourious Bastards. You'd probably still get found. Like I can't promise to do a good job.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll hide you, but buyer beware, no guarantees.
No,
I accept no reliability.
I will not hide you. I will block you. On
I will hide you
Twitter,
badly.
Instagram.
That's right.
And every.
Speaking of
not an
blocking
ally.
people, David Simon is another motherfucker who's probably a complete total Zionist.
Tell me
Yeah.
about it. He blocked me. He
Blocked me
blocked
too.
me over this.
He blocked
It was,
me years ago over Hillary, I think.
Ugh,
And did
God.
he crow about the blocking? Like he loves to announce blocked. Like he just
Yeah,
loves
yeah.
like going up on a mountain and screaming that he just blocked someone.
So he
I don't
actually
even remember.
he blocked me because I asked him. I was like, "Come on my The Wire podcast, and we can talk about The Wire, and we can talk about the difference between your personal Zionism and political Zionism." And he said he didn't want to go on. And then I said, "But I do The Wire parody songs about every episode." And then I played him my version of Lady Gaga's Paparazzi, but with the words Presbeluski. And he didn't like it, and he blocked me over it, which is too bad because I had this
come
really great
on.
Rob Zombie parody as well.
Why doesn't he support Jewish artists?
That's what
that's
I was
really
saying.
the question I'm asking.
It was very anti-Semitic of him. But we are going to be talking about liberal meltdowns this week because there have been a lot has happened. I mean, the student protests have continued. And people are mad about it, and you get, of course, the right wingers and like Zionist bigots targeting these protesters. There's no surprise there. But what I love is been seeing kind of like the way in which liberals and kind of like capital D Democrats, blue MAGA people are trying their best to scold all of these student protesters into submission. And I have a few examples of that. I don't know if you guys have seen, and I'm being introduced to these people for the first time. So this is from someone who just loves Democrats. This is Terry Lee Watkins Jr. Under a picture of, I guess there was a lot of litter that happened at the UCLA protests after the cops came in and busted it up.
And the pro-Zionist protesters roughed people up at UCLA, including that guy, allegedly, what's his name, Ben Glebe.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, was Ben? I know Ben Glebe was there. Was he also roughing people?
I said he was there. I am not illegally not making any accusation. Okay,
Matt. Any relation between you and Beng?
Me and Ben Glebe.
Bang.
Yes, his name is
Bang Glebe.
Bang Glebe. That's right. No, but I he has been introduced as me by hosts of several different comedy clubs accidentally when they've brought him up. They've been like,
so
and
funny.
Your
you
headliner,
guys do not
Matt Lieb.
Look alike. You do not look
Ben
alike.
Glebe. You know, Jewish names. They get them confused.
Gotcha.
But this guy, he wrote.
Big dweeb.
Yeah, fat dweeb. Fuck. He wrote, so many black, brown, and or low-income maintenance workers are going to have to clean this up. A shame. Just, I love the idea
Condescension.
The condescension, and also just like the idea, like, who is this for is what you have to ask yourself. And you realize it's for liberal Zionists. It's for them to find a reason in order to like continue mocking and like not supporting the protesters. They just
Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first ever case of janitorial concern trolling.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think that liberal Zionists, whenever they go to the bathroom, they just make they're like, I just got to make sure I'm tidy because the person that may be cleaning this up may be of a race that's a minority in America.
Well, but not only
100%.
that.
100%.
Not only that. Come on, let's be real. Why was that encampment left in that condition?
I think it's because of anti-Semitism, but what do you think?
Well, we know full well that when those fascist counter-protesters and the LAPD, or whichever city, was that UCLA?
That was UCLA,
Yeah.
That's right.
When the LAPD came in shooting rubber bullets and whatever, they announced, everyone clear the area. Those who do not vacate will be arrested. We are giving you 2 hours to do a complete cleanup. There are cleaning supplies and moving trucks to help you. Let's pitch in and make a greener earth. Now, get to it, scum.
Recycle, reduce, reuse, or we will be forced to use force.
Yeah. Recycle, reduce, reuse, or we will repress.
It's amazing that they have to make it about everything except what the kids are talking about.
Of course,
what they're advocating for. And, it's just like, it's a really simple test when you're looking at any kind of protest movement. And it's why, like, the comparisons to January 6th are so hilarious.
Yes.
Because it's not about the tactics. Like, if the election had been stolen, like, from Trump, right? Or something like, say Bernie, the election was stolen from Bernie Sanders. He was the nominee or something. And there was actually election interference. People would have been totally right to storm the Capitol. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and that would have been justified because the protest would have been right. And I like, it's not about how they did it or the fact that they were messy and they broke a window or something like that. It's about the fact that it was based on a lie.
Yeah,
And
100%.
And so the focus on, again, just like the results of the protest and the fact that there was some whatever, I don't know, garbage. It's just like it's all to obscure what are we even talking about here.
Right. And also, like, this is the same kind of a liberal Zionist talking point that it's in the same vein as all the excuses why Palestinians sort of deserve what they get. It's like this idea that because they're problematic. It's like,
Have you seen the condition Palestinians have left Gaza
I know.
in these days?
Literally, one of the tweets I remember from Ben Shapiro was saying that Arabs live in filth and trash and sewage.
Yep.
And it like this is part of their racism. It's the exact same vein. It's just like let's not talk about conditions that would lead to anything like the police literally doing a mass arrest and giving people no time to clean up. Or living in an open-air prison. It's like, no, let's just talk about how it's really problematic that they're like
I heard that the encampment was littered with mouse shit at the end of it, which is just such an indictment of the protesters. Oh, sorry, no, I mean the fucking Zionists who unleashed backpacks full of mice.
Yes. Yeah, and like, it's, I'm sorry, but like this idea of like, oh no, we're not Nazis. We're not calling them, rats. We're saying that they're litter bugs and we need to exterminate them for that reason.
We're saying they're vermin of a different kind.
A different kind, like a really, really,
totally different. It's totally different. Do you guys like? Okay, so am I?
We're saying they're
blind.
We're saying they're blind. They're blind like the three blind mice.
That's right. That's what we're saying.
Just a nursery rhyme. What were you saying, Emma?
I don't want to derail it, but I am curious about this, like, because I think it's totally fine to compare Netanyahu, I guess, like just to give people a sense of how horrible this is to Hitler, or just be like, I made some meme saying that he was Hitler, welcome back Hitler, right? Like he died in, what was it?
To the tune of Welcome Back Kotter, the 1970s. Yeah, sure.
It was something like, whatever. Hitler died in 1946 or 45, and Netanyahu was born in 49, implying he was reincarnated.
Sure.
I had such hesitation, even though I thought it was kind of a funny joke, about putting that out there, because I'm not a Jewish person, obviously, and I don't want to offend people. But, like, I don't necessarily think the body count and like how much he would be allowed to do is like, or he's able to kill is something that
Emma,
you should be
compare anyone you want to anyone you want. That's my policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's two, and here's two reasons why it's just a moot point. Number one, Netanyahu has been comparing, and not only that, but the U.S. security state, neoliberal, neoconservative establishment will compare anyone to Hitler anytime they want.
Yeah.
Whether it's
especially
Ceausescu or Ahmadinejad or Assad or Putin or Chavez or Castro
it's usually a nice little pretext, if you'll notice a pattern.
That's
or
exactly
a random
right.
Palestinian, right? Or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
So it's on the table. You might as well use it.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the other thing. Why are we getting, like, he's not our boy. Like, or do we worship Hitler? Like, stop taking Hitler's name in vain? Like, fuck off. Like,
I think that's a great point. We're so protective of Hitler.
We love our little Hitler. He's
ours.
Whoa.
That is not your word. That is our word.
Okay, we had a complicated relationship with him, okay?
Yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
It wasn't all rosy. But
you used
didn't
a hard
know him.
R.
You didn't know him like we knew him.
Yeah. You used a hard R when you talked about Hitler there. We don't do that, okay?
He was just trying to voluntarily
Hitler,
relocate the Jews.
I'm taking away your Hitler pass.
Do you think that they literally use Hitler's playbook, like, because it's just a little bit on the nose, the voluntary relocation,
he didn't invent it. I'd be closer to say they used Goebbels' playbook.
Yeah.
In many ways, Hitler was not the most dangerous of all the
architect. You're right. That was the Palestinian Grand Mufti.
That's right.
To,
Thank you.
Exactly right.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's a conversation that only exists to stop people from doing this thing where you compare anything to the Holocaust, and it is. I mean, listen.
Except October 7th.
Except for literally anything.
Comparing the wrong things to the Holocaust.
Yes, except for anything that the State Department says it's okay to compare to Hitler and the Holocaust, or the State of Israel says it's okay.
They keep revising that manual. I need to. It's like the DSM-5. I need to get a new compendium of things I'm allowed to compare to the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Because I really, someone cut me off in traffic the other day, and I was like, I really wanted to compare it to the Holocaust, but I hadn't consulted the newest edition.
You got to consult the DSM-8, the direct Shoah map 8. I don't know. We're doing our best here. But yeah, to continue on, like liberals kind of like figuring out ways to undermine these student protests. Did you guys see there was an article that was put out in the Washington Post by this guy Todd Frankel, who he wrote a piece chastising students for their focus on divestment, and the article basically says, like, university endowments have some investments in Israel and defense contractors, but not enough to like be mad about it. Like, that's the entire article, is just like breaking down how much. And the article in no way refutes the idea that indeed university endowments have ties, direct either investments in Israel or in defense contractors, it just says like, well, it's not as many as you'd think, like not compared to this other stuff, as if like having any, like the students are very clear. Divest. Right. No, we have no ties with it. Same thing with South Africa. And this guy is writing an entire article mad about that. And the kicker at the end is, I think, one of the most beautiful neoliberal brained like ideas I have seen. It is, I'll read it to you. But the student protesters could try a different tactic, one that doesn't seem to have found any traction amid the volley of demands. They could become investors in the U.S. defense contractors or companies they want to influence. That would allow them to become activist investors and push for the change they want to see from the inside.
Lean in, kids. Come on.
Lean in.
But that's the point, though. They're literally okay. So these endowments are using, like, this is what the kids' money is going towards. They don't have a choice to have an investment portfolio and like make a determination based on that. It's because the universities have the ability to invest in what they want, and the kids are like, we don't want it invested in this.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just saying it's so funny because this idea of like every single accusation or critique they have of this protest movement is hilarious on its face, because they go like, oh, they don't know what they want. They're very clear about divestment, and divestment is divestment. You can't just be like, well, yeah, but if you're not divesting, if it's not that much, it's like, no, divest, period. Nothing. No support of this apartheid regime, period.
Yeah, it's not mid-vestment.
Yes, exactly. It is very clear. And the other thing that I feel like the students have been doing fantastic at is controlling the amount of Zionist agitator content creators from like trying to put words in their mouth or getting them to say things that they can use later to be like and it's great to watch them completely like panic about it. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal in which
they're upset that they have spokespeople on or for the protest. They're upset that they're actually like strategic as opposed to what they were able to do in Occupy, which is just like single somebody out and then demonize the whole movement based on that. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's not to say that they don't still try to do that, but they are actually, like, at the very least, to their credit, they are realizing the problem of, fuck, these people won't talk to us. And they're like, to their credit, they're going, how do we spin that into being evil rather than just, making up shit out of whole cloth?
Well, and as they pointed out on Chapo, which, by the way, there's a Chapo's bonus episode that came out today of them talking to an anonymous former university communications director at, whistleblowing on the internal politics of all this. But I don't know, I think it was Will or Felix pointed out, like, that's your fucking job as journalists, to get sources to talk to you.
Right.
And you got these people whining that, the kids won't talk to us. They're so uncooperative,
And they never complain if a police spokesperson gives them a statement or a politician spokesperson. They would never complain.
Or the Israeli government.
Yes.
Well, we're not going to comment on that. Okay, yes, sir. Then there's also the fact that, you remember during Black Lives Matter, one of the complaints about it, and there may be some legitimate critique to this, was that in some aspect, to some extent, there was a lack of concrete, actionable, measurable demands, right?
Yeah.
Which, whatever, you can say whatever you want about that particular tactical or whatever critique. But here in this case, it's the most concrete set of demands I've ever seen in a protest movement. Certainly Occupy was accused of having that, and I think rightly 100%. So. And it was one of the reasons that it kind of fizzled out. But it was a cri de coeur. It was a cultural expression of a moment, and in that sense it was valuable. But as a political movement, it had a limitation. In this case, this is activism par excellence.
Yes, it's clear cut, and it's also something that has historical precedents in terms of protest movements. I mean, this is how we were able to get the United States to eventually, I mean, not the only reason, but the United States eventually turned its back on apartheid South Africa. Like this isn't something new and novel that, these kids are trying to get done. This is something that is, in fact, very useful and has been actively been tried to, they've tried to make it illegal to do. I mean, they've actively legislated against BDS in our government in order to stop it, because they know that this is something that works. And
right.
It's great to watch the attempts, though, of people trying to make this look bad. Have you guys seen the lady who was walking on campus and crying?
The woman that wore the shirt that said Jew and stood in the middle?
Oh no, I guess that was a bit vague of me, because there's a lot of that.
Okay, yes.
This is a woman who was trying to make a little bit of content. Just trying to talk to these protesters, and this is what ends up happening.
Is all the craziness that's happening on college campuses, especially at UCLA. So I decided to come here for myself.
I did see this.
Do you mind if I interview?
I'm not going to talk to media.
The music.
Do you guys want to tell me what's going on?
Yeah, you hear the music, like, can you believe this? Look how scary and, I don't know, Arab this is. The way
I know. It's like on Grey's Anatomy when, like, they don't want to really put in the effort to make a story work and, like, move you emotionally in some way, so they just put, whatever, Imagine Dragons on in the background.
Right. Yeah.
Suffices.
Can we make this sound profound?
Yeah.
It's and these are, I mean, we're not going to talk to media. That's a classic anti-Semitic slogan.
That's right.
When they used
Why?
to execute Jews.
That's right.
In the mass graves.
That's right.
The last thing often the SS soldiers would say in like a Schwarzenegger voice would be, "No comment."
That's
From
right.
the river to the sea, talk to my Spocks.
That's exactly.
No, sorry.
I'm not letting any media in the camera, just so you know.
Okay, we were just standing outside, just trying to. Are we allowed to ask you guys a few questions about it? A lot of us just don't feel comfortable.
I can direct you to media liaison.
We're not gonna interview with you today.
Oh my
Not
God,
gonna
you guys,
engage
discipline.
with people that are gonna be pushing us.
Never seen anything like this in my life.
No, agitators aren't allowed.
Talk to one of our media.
They won't speak to me. No one will speak to me.
There's a desk over there with media.
I've spoken to them. They won't speak to me.
Well, then we can try again.
I've tried, and this lady specifically is telling me I'm an agitator.
Don't engage with agitators in this.
I'm just trying to understand what you're protesting. For some reason, no one from your guys' team will let you guys speak, and I don't know why you guys can't speak to me.
She crying?
Yeah, she starts crying.
Yeah.
This is so intimidating and scary for you guys to be standing here. I literally have walked around for the past 2 hours just asking peaceful
All right, pause
questions.
it.
Like,
I'm
what's
sorry,
going
pause
on
it. I
here
forgot
today?
it's not my show. But like the idea, like these same liberals will tell me that they read freaking Robin DiAngelo, White Fragility.
Yeah.
This is the definition of white fragility. The definition of it, right? Like, I mean, the idea that this woman feels so entitled. And I get sensitive to it because I'm a white woman, and like I don't like white women historically have used their victimization for really racist ends, and that's the exact same thing. And I don't like, you can just see it so visibly to me. But
no, you're.
I want to update the Beatles song. It's like, how will I feel safe and secure since I saw them standing there?
Oh, infuriating.
It is just so, it's amazing because it's like, the past 7 months, I remember when Trump was elected, there was some people, some facetiously, some not, saying like, oh God, it looks like Jews aren't white anymore. It was kind of a joke. This is like, oh, we did it. This is fully immersed in the tent of whiteness. We are now
whites
so
are
white.
Jews now.
Whites are Jews. Sorry, Jews, we are white.
We know that whiteness is fungible, and we Italians have been accepted into whiteness,
which I'm against. I've always said
gives a whole new meaning to fungible tokens.
My fiance is Italian American, and I gotta say, like, we got to get in on that DEI stuff. So please start identifying as a person of color.
This tactic of walking around campus, just asking questions, just looking for someone to talk to us is also something they've been trying. I don't know if you guys saw Rudy Rockman, the video of him.
Of
now, this is a guy that I did. Some would say legendary, but certainly widely viewed. To me, I feel nauseated even thinking about it. I spent 2.5 hours talking to this guy. He's sitting on an IDF base right outside of Gaza with his boys, coming in from the field, and he's a sniper, but he styles himself as a peaceful guy who calls the Palestinians our cousins, and he's calling me his Jewish brother, and just puts things in terms of, look, once we get rid of Hamas, then we can really end this terrible system of oppression, and really, and I gave this guy 2.5 hours of my life, and hopefully it was clarifying for people to watch the conversation, but it was very physically, viscerally difficult for me. Sorry for the noise in the background here. It's Brooklyn. But recently I saw a video of him on George Washington campus kind of doing an Ask Me Anything, and, walking right into the heart of the encampment, setting up a thing, just got back from Gaza, talked to me. And this is his shtick of just being very calm and rational. And then he makes very slickly produced videos of being, it's like that Kids in the Hall sketch of the two salesmen where they have a plant in the audience, being like, I have a question. This product seems like it could change my life, but I'm skeptical, and then of course he got booed out of, he got chanted and heckled out of there as he should have been. But his whole shtick is, look, if these people would only be reasonable,
right.
But they don't want to have a peaceful dialogue as you walk into an encampment as a former IDF soldier looking to make that scene.
Yes, it's just so clear. I mean, like that is such a obvious and frankly hackneyed agitation tactic. Nobody doesn't know what you're doing here.
That's right.
And so when Peggy Noonan of the Washington Post shows up and it's just I tried to talk to people, but, they wouldn't talk to me. And one almost did, but then she conformed. And it's like, if the scariest, most anti-Semitic thing you can think of is people conforming, then you've got really nothing to go with here. And watching liberals freak out about it is one of the great pleasures that I have, because you're watching the one thing that they do care about, slip away. And it's not to say I don't, and that thing being the possibility that Donald Trump will get elected again later this year. And that's not to say that's something that I want. Of course, it's not something I fucking want to have happen. But we are, I don't blame people for being like, I cannot in good conscience vote for this guy. He's done nothing for me to make me believe that he in any way cares about human life.
Matt, why are you so anti-democratic that you're unwilling to blame people for exercising their free choice?
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. That's what I think that's, again, to bring it back to the feelings. When I talk to older people in particular, it's like, you got to vote for Biden. You got to vote for Biden. And I guess I differ from some others. Maybe I'm a little bit more of a lib, but I also think what you do on voting on election day is basically very not that important for your political education. You do it
You're
to
with
put
Chomsky
somebody
on that. Actually, Chomsky agrees with you.
I think maybe I'm borrowing from that in my pot-addled brain, but the idea just that it's a tool, it's a tactic. You vote in the people that are going to be the least oppositional to what you try to do, and you move on from that point. And I don't judge anybody for not voting, and I don't judge anybody for voting Democrat. I just think that that's kind of a way to build a broader coalition. But I will say,
but that's also the difference, is that you are not judging someone for not voting, because it's like I just can't. That's the same feeling I have. I can't bring myself to blame someone at this point. It's very difficult for me.
It's about, in the end, and hopefully Matt gets back online here, but in the end, it really is about the people's feelings, and that's the thing that bothers me, where it's like, it's more about liberals not wanting to wake up in the morning and have anxiety that Donald Trump is the president. And they feel like they can go, again, this is like back to brunch. It's a little bit like the Hillary Clinton stuff, as opposed to trying to build a politics that are sustainable and equitable. And I'm not that sympathetic to your feelings and about what things are going to look like. I care about the Supreme Court. I care about the institutions and like the damage to the administrative state. But with absent of that, I am completely understanding of anybody's decision. And if Biden loses, just like it was with Hillary Clinton, who didn't go to freaking Michigan and decided she was going to spend the entire campaign condescending to voters, I blame the candidates here, because it's just like not a sustainable way to orient your politics, to start shaming millions of people for making decisions when they feel disempowered. It's on the politicians, and Biden has decided that his Zionist ideology is more important than honestly winning this election. And
he's also really, really vying for that title of greater of two evils. I'm sorry, at this point,
I know, he's trying.
Not that Trump shows any signs that he would be any better on this particular issue, but you can't imagine a more evil president when it comes to foreign policy than Biden on this. But and I agree with you, Emma. If Biden loses, it's just going to be a case of Malcolm X's prophetic words coming true. It's the Cheetos coming home to roost.
That's right. That's
right.
What he said.
And I will say, I hear you on that. I think though the one thing I'd say is when you vote, you're voting not just for the guy or the woman. If one time in my lifetime, maybe. You're voting for the coalition of people that they bring into power and the thousands of people. And that's the thing that I think is just incredible to see, is that there are, based on the reporting, there's a lot of discontent, at least within the Biden administration. And it's Blinken and Biden are these Zionist fucking freaks that are obsessed with it. And we'll never have another Democratic president with this orientation. It's just not politically feasible at this point.
Yeah. And I think that was clear early on, too. I mean, it just felt like this was so clearly a losing message. And I guess we'll find out in November or whatever. But to me, I was just like, this is not going to end well. This feels like not just morally wrong, but like strategically stupid, to actively abandon swaths of voters, just as from like a purely like scumbag, self-interested Tommy Carcetti season 3 of The Wire fucking like thing, where you're just like on like a self-interested political level, this feels dumb. And yet, so when you see them still continuing with the strategy, you're like, this must be like an ideological commitment to this cause of the destruction
it seems
of
that
Palestine.
Way.
It feels.
I mean, what was
there's no other explanation for it other than that.
Beinart's reporting in Mother Jones from a few years ago that's now, I think, had increased relevance in showing that Biden basically went around Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State at the time, and Obama, the president, to assure Netanyahu that they would not be crack down on them for, I forget what human rights violation was at issue at that point. But like, this is literally, he feels that this is reparations for the Holocaust, and he doesn't really consider Palestinians as human beings, so it's easy for him to justify it in his mind. Because
Have you heard the story about him shocking Menachem Begin's conscience back in 1982?
Sam has told me this story like a few times at this point. The fact that basically he was like, "Whoa, you're going a little too far there."
Sir, we have humanitarian principles. Biden's like, listen,
come
Mac,
on, man.
Come on, man, kill some more women and children.
Yeah.
No, it's incredible. It's
and it undercuts to this point the core. Like, again, just from a scumbag self-interested perspective, I'm the kind moral guy versus Donald Trump, Lothario scammer.
Right.
Like
Lothario
that is
versus lethargy.
Exactly. And it's just that, but that's the thing, is like, that's how deep anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian racism is in this country. I mean, we're talking about the freaking scourge of anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitic incidents are on the rise, but like most of what we're talking about here is this moral panic. The depth of our nation's Islamophobia cannot be overstated. And that is what has greased the runway for this genocide. And I'll never forget it. And I'll never forget seeing liberals just go along with it. It's
and as always, any kind of bigotry is not random. It's always calibrated to justify material policy. It's not, European racism needed to exist as an idea. And maybe I'm stepping outside my lane here. Maybe a historian will come in and say, no, that's not true. But it seems to me that if you're going to dominate the world and take its resources for yourself because you have a permanent scarcity mindset and rapacious, and you've already plundered your own entire continent, and you're spiritually bereft and all this other shit.
Yeah, a greedy little pig. Yeah,
greedy little hogs. You've got to come up with a cosmology of the world in which everyone else is benighted and beneath you and subhuman. And so in any case, whoever needs to be conquered is first and kind of forever dehumanized. And
well, isn't that what they say? Fascism is like colonialism and imperialism turned inward. It's a bit reductive, but at least in this instance, it feels pretty.
Yeah, that works.
Exactly, there is, which is why I just, anti-Jewish sentiment may be on the rise. Some of that, to me, is understandable based on the way a lot of Jews are acting and the way people are acting to protect people who call themselves the representatives of the Jews. It's not justifiable. I don't like it. I would do everything I can to be, a bulwark against it in any way
that's why this podcast exists.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not like that was the other title of the podcast.
We said, pick us, please, or rather, don't pick us, depending on what you're picking us for.
Yes.
Don't select us. But what there isn't is an institutional, imperial imperative.
Yep.
To dehumanize our people so that some shit can happen that'll conquer us. It just isn't the case. And I wish to God that I wish to G-D that it was that Jews could get the difference between people resenting Jews and a kind of systemic, targeted and utilitarian means to an end kind
this
of
is why this is why every single liberal Zionist drives me up the fucking wall, because this is literally the shit they would say exactly about in terms of systemic racism. I'd be like, yes, you got it, we must be homies, we're we get each other here.
Well, and Matt, I get it.
Happens, and then this happens, and I'm just like, what the fuck? This is what you did, a complete 180 on understanding of this, of systemic bigotry and the utility of it for states and empire. And all of a sudden they're just like, well, I'm going to apply, I'm going to apply that to me, but not as the oppressor, but as the oppressed. And I'm just like,
by definition, automatically, regardless of the context.
Based completely on ancestry. And I'm just like, you don't get to cosplay fucking shtetl Jew in the Pale of Settlement. I'm sorry. You're from fucking Santa Monica. What are you doing?
It's really sad that they've driven you up the wall, the Wailing Wall, all the way to
the they've driven up the Wailing Wall. I'm the one wailing the hardest. Fucking A. But yeah, it is it's wild to just to round it out and bring it to a close. Thinking about the in terms of how just on a self-interested level, you would figure that they would have understood that this is not the way to go. You're seeing now the beginnings of the consequences of that, because now, due to, in part, to the pressure that's being put on all over the country by these students who are doing these encampments, and by more and more, people kind of just being fed up and saying out loud, finally, that, at the very least, Netanyahu bad, right? You're seeing Biden actually move a little bit on this. He did an interview with who was it? He did an interview with Burnett, someone from CNN.
Aaron Burnett.
Aaron, okay, not Carol. Good, thank God. And in which he said that he is now threatening to withhold weapons if Israel decides to invade Rafah with ground troops. And he gave a bunch of there was a bunch of qualifiers and caveats, and it's like, yeah, you can bomb outside of the population centers, but if they go in to the population centers, we're gonna not give them the good bombs. Which is it's something. It's not nothing. It is something. And I think Norm Finkelstein mentioned that even that little bit could save lives, and that does matter. And I commend him for that kind of thinking. And the results of this have been exactly what you would expect. It's literally people crying that this is the betrayal of the Jews. What was it? The Post did.
Of course.
Did you guys see this shit? The Post did a on their cover, they showed.
Oh yes.
Betrayed. Biden vows to cut off weapons if Israel tries to finish off Hamas. And then we have this.
Biden's Hamas now.
What's that?
Biden is Hamas now. Did you not get the memo?
Yes. Yeah. Biden is now Hamas. Ben Gvir put out a tweet recently that just said Biden heart Hamas, which beautiful. And then you had Chaim Saban writing this letter that he himself leaked very obviously to Biden, or at least Biden's team. And it reads, "Hi, Steve and Anita. Can you please share with the president? Dear President Biden, we, the U.S., as you stated numerous times, believe that Hamas should be defeated. We, the U.S., in this case, you, Mr. President." I'm sorry, but this guy...
Us.
We, the us. I'm going to add that to the song. We, us. Mr. President, have decided to stop sending munitions to Israel to achieve the goal that we/you have set up for Israel and ourselves. Even beyond Israel, this sends a terrible message to our allies in the region that they can't do genocide without, being told that they get the less good bombs. Let's not forget, there are more Jewish voters who care about Israel than Muslims that care about Hamas. Bad, bad, bad decision on all levels.
I also love that admission there, that it's in some way like an electoral consequence. There's more Jews in America than Muslims that are going to vote for you because they, quote, love Hamas. It's just so cynical at the same time.
It's so cynical, and it's also, I'm sorry, but this is it's disingenuous to come from Chaim Saban, who doesn't give a fuck about the amount of Jewish voters in America is so negligible in terms of physical 1-to-1 votes versus most of the groups. So we make up 2% of the population.
And they are going to vote Democrat. I mean, let's be real here.
Yes,
it's the AIPAC is at risk of losing the narrative because they are going to just start to be more transparently a Republican group.
Yes.
And then when they're disconnected from liberal Zionism, that's when I think things start to kind of collapse.
Yes.
Daniel, I was just saying how once AIPAC, it becomes more clear that they're a Republican organization and they lose the liberal Zionist support, it's more difficult to say that they're fighting anti-Semitism, because in the end it's just going to evolve into a right-wing project hell-bent on kind of protecting this colonial system, but also this psychotic Christian Zionist perspective.
Yeah.
Well, here's hoping.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think for Chaim Saban to say this too, he's being disingenuous because he knows he's not threatening the 2% of Jewish voters that exist in the not even 2% of the 2% population of Jews, an even smaller percentage who are of voting age. He's not threatening, what if they don't vote for you? He's threatening money. He knows what he's doing. He's a billionaire, and he's threatening money. That's all. That's all he's fucking doing.
Right.
He's like, remember who fucking runs this country, and it's people who have billions of dollars.
Fighting anti-Semitism by embodying the stereotype.
Yes, I'm sorry, but I hate this about this situation because it's like, I try to be as careful as possible to make sure that people know the difference between, this Nazi propaganda of Jewish control of everything and the reality of money controlling our political system that everyone fucking knows and is talked about and is made more abundantly clear by the fact that you have a system which constantly favors the needs of special interests versus what voters seem to be generally feeling about things democratically based on polling and whatnot. So, I look at this and I go like, and I hate when, especially, Zionist, Jewish, bad faith actors, call out anti-Semitism everywhere else and then embody, like they do their best to wear they're wearing an octopus suit and they're just like, oh, you're gonna say that. It's like, you're wearing the fucking suit. You're dressing like a Nazi cartoon and you're being like, I can't believe you would say these
Rabbi
things.
Shmuley actually did that, trying to make a point for Purim. He dressed up
I
as
know.
the Candace Owens Jew, trying to embody every stereotype. He looked more like himself, actually.
He looked like what he. Oh, it's just like.
Emma, you have a heart out, right?
I do have to run, and
Yes.
I am supposed to meet some friends to watch the Knicks game, which is kind of soon. I'll be a little bit late, but you guys are the best. I had a great time. I'm sorry to have to dip out like this, but
it is all
sweat.
good. I really appreciate you coming on, and please, come back whenever. And
I would love to.
Where
Keep
can
it
people
up.
find you?
I'm looking forward to one day when I'm able to passive aggressively send this episode to the friend that some of the friends have decided that they don't that I'm anti-Semitic or something like that.
Send
That'd be
it.
really nice.
Send
yeah.
it. Then she'll have 2 more people to hate.
Tell them my great-grandparents died in Auschwitz.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will. That won't matter, by the way. It doesn't matter at all. Doesn't,
That
and
never
none of this
matters.
matters. I co-host
I'm
my show with
a
Jewish man.
non-fungible token for them.
Okay,
Yes,
right. Well,
Oh shit! Oh my god!
I made the joke earlier. I tried to make the joke earlier, but it didn't land then.
It
Yes.
didn't.
was
I
the
didn't
perfect
put
pla-
it
yeah.
too.
right, that the
it's
market
too-
has crashed since the Hamas attack. Right, it's no longer a speculative asset to trade off that.
I mean,
of that,
but
I guess.
token
Damn.
Jew,
Token, exactly.
non-fungible.
Oh, it's so well done.
It's
yes.
so
Thank you.
well done.
Some
Thank you very
bangers.
much.
yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
Take care.
there we go. All
Thank
right.
you
See
so
you guys
much
later.
for coming on, and I'm going to end the show by saying patreon.com/badhasbara.
Have we just gone another episode without talking about Shai Davidai?
We have. You know
the
what?
fuck?
He'll
Why
come
don't you
back in
guys
the
do
news.
that, and I will dip out. All right.
No, we'll do it another episode.
We'll do it another. I'll just sign out. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. And from the river to the sea, eventually we'll do an episode about Shai David D. I tried to make it rhyme.
Jumping jacks was us. Push-ups was us. Krav Maga us. All karate us.